What's up, guys? It's three-time NFL Pro Bowler, all-decade return specialist, Josh Cribbs. I want to welcome you to the College Sports Connection podcast, where Double A, Alex, and AJ host the Mid-American Conference Best.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the CSC podcast, all action, all the time. I'm your host, Alex the Captain. Joining me as always, it's AJ the Guru.
Going on, everybody?
Guys, welcome back. We are it is week 0. College football season is about to be underway, and we get our first action game of the year. Fortunate scheduling situation for us as we see the Ohio Bobcats, the defending MAC East champions, head out west to take on the Fighting Brady Hoax of San Diego State. Should be a good game. Really looking forward to that one.
Yeah, without a doubt. Brady Hoax had that program rolling here the past couple of years, ever since he took that job. It's been, 3-4 years now that he's been there? Maybe
he's
longer?
Been there a while now. This is round 2 for him there.
Round 2 there, yeah. And this is going to be an exciting game, obviously, not just because it's MACtion, not because it's, we have MAC on TV Saturday, but we have college football back as a whole. I mean, you look at the slated games, you got Navy and Notre Dame playing over in Ireland. That's going to be a cool one to watch as well. And then we got USC, San Jose State, Hawaii, Vanderbilt, UMass, New Mexico State, and FIU, and Louisiana Tech. But back to this OU and San Diego State game, SDSU is -2.5. It's at 5 p.m., or I guess 5 p.m. for me, 7 for you on FS1. So this will be really, really fun. Really, really excited to see what the Bobcats can do here this year.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what Ohio does. I think last year, you give them Curtis work in the MAC championship, they probably win the MAC and end the longest drought for a MAC championship. That's a drought dating back to 1968. They've been in the MAC championship game. Yeah, they've been in that game several different times. They've just run up against really good opponents. Their 2016 team, they ran up against Western Michigan and they almost pulled off that win. Like they've gotten unlucky in so many of these games, but really looking forward to what they can do this year. Looking forward to that game. But we sat down and we made our preseason predictions actually to date a month ago. And we broke it down. AJ and I kind of said, hey, this is what we think is going to happen. And yeah, let's just kind of get into it. AJ, let's break down these rankings and I don't know, kind of defend some of yours. You and I got a little bit of venom from a couple fans from a couple fan bases for where we slotted their teams, most notably the Eastern Michigan fans, which in fairness, I know we expect them to be good, but let's kind of dive into these a little bit.
Let's do it. I mean, you're cutting out there. But yeah, I can hear you now. So yeah, I have Toledo repeating as champions. I know this is a conference that there isn't a lot of repeating, when it comes to champions. So I have Toledo winning it, facing Ohio in the MAC championship again. So repeating the game and the champion. I just think with both Jaquan Finn and Curtis Rourke, they are the 2 best quarterbacks in the conference, hands down, especially when they're healthy. And we saw that last year. We saw Jaquan got hurt. The offense struggled, even though they had a sustainable backup, they hurt. And same thing with OU when there are issues. But we talked about Eastern Michigan. I have them finishing second in the division. And I talked about it in my preseason hot takes, is I would not be shocked if Eastern Michigan pulled it out and ended up in Detroit.
Yeah, I think and I think that is a hot take, right? And not necessarily, I don't want to say it's a hot take in the sense of, it's an unbelievable one. I think that Eastern Michigan has a lot of the tools. My biggest question for them is, there is going to be a little bit of concern at quarterback play. I don't think there's a huge drop off because they did, switch in and out a little bit last year. But I do think that there's a little bit of concern. For me, the concern is the depth. They lost a lot of backups Darius Laddister was also another big name that they lost to the transfer portal last year. And I really think that this is an Eastern Michigan team who, while good and what Coach Creighton has done is excellent up there. My hot take was that I wouldn't be surprised to see them regress a little bit this year. Last year they went 9-5, 9-4. They had a really great season. So when I say regress, 8-5, I don't see I don't think that's an impossibility.
No, not at all.
So, it'll be interesting to see. I was a little bit shocked by your admittedly your ranking of Ball State finishing dead last in the West Division, and Western Michigan finishing as high as 4th. I think Western Michigan, they only returned 2 starters on defense. They lost a lot of guys that transfer portal. Sean Tyler's now up at Minnesota. This is a team that's going to be breaking in a lot of young guns in a new offense with a new coach. I just don't see them finishing outside of last in the West Division. I think it'll be close, but I was really surprised by your pick of Western Michigan to finish 4th in the West.
Yeah, you look in the West too. I mean, you have 2 staples. You're gonna have Toledo in Eastern Michigan. I think everybody else. Ball State has questions at quarterback. Western Michigan still hasn't named a starting quarterback, and they played 3 or 4 last year. It seems like. At Northern Illinois, it all depends on the health of Rocky Lombardi. He was coming off a season where he was injury ridden. Is he going to a 6th year of college football? So I don't know if that has anything to do with. I mean, it has to have a physical on your physical wear and tear and mental being in college for 6 years and playing college ball 6 years. So we got to see where he's at there. Central Michigan, still a lot of things up in the air for them as well. You're going to look at it. Obviously Lou Nichols is gone. That's he has, even though he had a down year last year. He is gone, along with Daniel Richardson, who transferred to FAU. So the questions that Central is going to have as well. I think everybody in the West does have a question besides Toledo and Eastern Michigan, and Ball State. I talked about it. They could end up winning 6 games or 7 games and going to a bowl game. That was also one of my hot takes. I wouldn't be entirely shocked there. But the Hatcher kid, the transfer from Texas Tech, who Coach New was extremely high on, talked about him at Media Day a lot, mentioned that he was going to be the starter. But it wouldn't be a shocker to see some other guys take reps as well.
Don't know if you saw this, but the recent report out of camp is that it looks like the true freshman from California may actually be getting the starting gig. It may not actually even be Hatcher. He was taking second team reps.
Yeah, I saw his name being thrown around. So I guess we're all going to find out when everybody else does, I guess.
We're going to find out for sure. Kind of going into my West rankings, Toledo, Eastern Michigan seem like the 1 and 2. That seems like a pretty consensus thought for everybody. I really, really like Central Michigan coming back. Central Michigan and Northern Illinois are going to be battling it out for that 3rd place spot. A lot of injuries that both of them are recovering from. Bert Emanuel is going to be a stud for Central Michigan at quarterback. I really like what he did towards the end of the year last year. He made some really nice plays. Rocky Lombardi coming back. I think that they're going to have Ontario Brown is back as well, right? Is that I remember? Mm-hmm. So I think having those 2 back, that's huge. I just think that Toledo returned 16 starters. I think Eastern Michigan's returning 11, 12 starters. And that's hard to overcome. That's really difficult to match and overcome. Now, again, we haven't seen a repeat champion since the 2011 and then the 2012 season when Northern Illinois went back to back. But if I had to guess, Toledo has, this is the best shot of anybody to do that. And I think that this year would be Toledo. But I don't have Toledo winning the conference. I actually went a little bit different direction than a lot of the popular picks. A lot of the popular picks, yourself included, are Ohio winning the East. I have Miami winning the East. I think that Brett Gabbert is, for all intents and purposes, one of the top 2 quarterbacks in the conference. I think DeQuan Finn is an excellent quarterback. I think he's number 3, but I think Brett Gabbert is one of the top 2 in the conference. This is an Ohio team that, you lose guys like Matt Kippenhammer, or this is sorry, not the Ohio team. This is a Miami team. You lose guys like Matt Kippenhammer. I really, really think Miami puts it all together this year. They had the best defense in the conference last year, like top to bottom. I think, Toledo had a great, run defense, and I think they were one of the top teams in the country in total defense. But when you actually look at what Miami did, I think Miami just played much better defense. That being said, I really wouldn't be surprised if Miami versus Ohio was the de facto MAC East championship game.
Yeah, without a doubt. And you look at Miami of Ohio, talking about Gabbert, obviously he missed a lot of time last year with injury. He entered the transfer portal, decided to get out of it, decided to come back to Miami. And obviously we don't want anybody to get hurt, but Miami's got to look at it too. If something were to happen, you have Avion Smith sitting in the wings, who has had a lot of playing time, who's looked really good when he's played too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Avion Smith, and I think it'll be interesting to see if they can open the playbook more with him, as well as with Brett Gabbert. You get a multiple QB package on the field. You could do a lot of really exciting things with both of them. Pretty simple for both of us. We both picked Kent State to finish last. Kent State is one of the only teams in college football that has to replace all 11 guys on starters on offense.
Yep, and have a new head coach who started later than everybody else.
And that's tough. So Kent State, I have them, their ceiling for me is 3 wins. And that's 3 wins total, not 3 MAC wins. I don't see any argument with them finishing dead last in the conference, or at least in the division. But the next 3, the 3 through 5 of the East, you and I have a little bit of variance here. I am unbelievably high on the Akron Zips this year. They lost 5 games by 10 points or less a year ago. I watched 2 of those games where they lost on 1 score final possession things. This is an Akron team who's only going to get better. They've got great guys coming in from the transfer portal. They have a former 5-star running back transferring in from Florida.
Yeah.
This is a really good Akron team. Alex Adams is an anchor on that wide receiving core. And DJ Irons, I think finally we're going to see him get a chance to really shine and be the star that I think we all know he is.
Absolutely. And DJ Irons has shown glimpses of how good he can be. We've seen it really all last year. You kind of look at their schedule here. Their non-conference is pretty favorable. They go to Temple, where they're 9.5-point underdogs, which is kind of interesting. But then they host Morgan State, then they go to Kentucky, then at IU. I mean, you could very easily come out of that first 4 games 2-2 going into conference play. I would not be shocked if that were to be the case. In the first conference game, they're hosting Buffalo, which ironically was the last game they played last year, I believe, after the game was delayed because of the storms in Buffalo.
Yep.
So, and that's a game that they could win easily because Buffalo, I think, is going to be down this year. Comparatively, their defense is going to be solid. Their offense, I'm not really too sure about.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, there's no doubt or no reason Akron can't go 2-2 in non-conference, going into conference play.
Yeah, I think Akron's got a really, really good shot. My hot take was that they'll finish 6-6 or better. And I know a lot of people are not that confident in in Akron. And no, I really think Akron's got a lot of nice things that they're doing and kind of adjusting their team. The Buffalo and the Bowling Green, I've got them kind of just sitting there as well. I think it's really going to be a dogfight for number 3, and I think all 3 of these teams are going to compete for that third in the East spot. Bowling Green is such an interesting one because they've got the Mizzou transfer at quarterback. They've got a bunch of guys returning on the offensive side. Teron Keith and Terrion Stewart are going to be dangerous out of that backfield. Odio Hilaire is going to be just an absolute stud once again at wide receiver, but it's going to depend on what they can do at quarterback and if the transfer can get it done, or if they're going to have to turn to I think the transfer is Connor Basilak, or if they're going to have to turn to the guy who stepped in for for Matt McDonald at the end of in the bowl game last year, and I'm blanking on his name. Camden Orr. That's who it was. Forgive me out there, Camden. I did not mean to forget your name there. You played an excellent bowl game, but I think it's going to be really interesting to see. Their defense is going to be really shaky this year.
Yeah, defense is going to be interesting because they were solid last year defensively. They think they led the MAC in sacks. I believe it was tackles for loss or something like that. But nevertheless, replacing Matt McDonald it's going to be a challenge. I mean, he threw for 2,669 yards last year with 22 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, but he was sacked 32 times. That's really that really is what hurt BG last year, and it's really something they have to improve on this year in order for them to get that third spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. And then Buffalo, I've seen this come up a couple times. I think Buffalo will be a little bit better than they were a year ago. Getting the Camilla Bowl win last year was nice for them. I do think that they have an opportunity to be really successful this year and compete for that third spot as well. So they'll be fun. They'll be fun to watch as well. They got Ron Cook coming back in the backfield.
He's been there forever.
Right? Yeah, he's been there for 1,000 years.
Is Washington back too?
That I don't know off the top of my head.
Exactly. I feel like he's been around forever also.
So yeah, I mean those are two guys, a couple guys in that whole team. I think is really, Coach Linguist is going to have them really set up for success this year, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch them play. I'm really excited to see what Buffalo does, and I mean, it makes sense where you have your picks. I think that 3 through 5 in the East is just a jumbled mess.
Because I'm with you on that one. We could really interchange all of those.
Yeah.
With my 3 through 5 are Buffalo, Akron, and BG. We could really interchange those weekly. It seems almost.
Yeah.
And so
100%.
Right now, I did put Buffalo up there at 3 just because I think their offense is I'm not saying a lot better, but maybe a hair better. But I do like their defense. So I do like Buffalo's defense. They do have a couple of returning guys who were able to put up some serious numbers last year. They have I believe it's a linebacker who's on what's the linebacker watch list? The Nagurski Award, that Sean Dolick. He's a player. He had 4.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 97 solo tackles last year. I think he's a guy who's going to be a leader on that defensive side. He's 6'1", 225 at linebacker. That's a dude. And if you look at his profile picture on ESPN, he looks like a linebacker. Right. So shout out to him. But yeah, I think that's kind of why I put Buffalo up there a little higher. And I think too, Coach Lundquist is going on his 3rd year now. Yeah, his 3rd year, and so this is a real make it or break it proof year, I think, for him. Because he's had Buffalo. Because when he took over the job, Buffalo was at the top. And they've regressed dramatically since. So now, granted, Coach Leipold's got left, went to Kansas. He has Kansas as a football team now. He had, Jarrett Patterson. He had some dudes on that team too. Quarterback who transferred to Georgia State at the time. But then at 4, I put Akron. The same reasons that we talked about earlier. They have the tools. It's just going to matter if they put them all together. I think you talked to Coach Moorhead, and he seems extremely confident in the team. He should be. There's no doubt in my mind why Akron can't take this. The second or third or second spot, honestly. And then BG we talked about briefly too. Yeah, we're the BG. We're not going to know a lot about BG until week 4 or 5. I think once they get settled, once they get into conference play, once they get out of that non-conference schedule, once they get into the MAC, I think it's really where we're going to find out what BG is made of.
Sure. And I mean, we saw last year the up and down roller coaster that was the Bowling Green Falcons, and I think this year, for them, it's all about consistency. They go out, they beat Toledo, but then they lose to Kent State by 35. So it's just about being consistent. And that's going to be their focus this year. So obviously you have Toledo versus Ohio and Detroit. You're picking Toledo to win the MAC. I'm obviously going Miami versus Toledo, Miami to win the MAC. Burning question: Toledo goes 12-0. How likely is that? I think this is the best, and I'm going to say this as unbiased as I can. I think Toledo has the tools and the ability to run a perfect regular season If they get past Illinois, watch out. They don't get past Illinois, I still think they have all the stuff in the toolbox to have a really good season, a 10-2 and 11-1 season. They get past Illinois, I think there's a really, really good shot Toledo could run the table.
There is, I'm looking at that schedule, like you talked about, you're going to that Illinois game week 1, Texas Southern week 2, San Jose State week 3, then they get into conference play week 4. I do look at a hiccup here, though, in their schedule. I do see a situation where Eastern Michigan goes to Toledo and beats them on a Wednesday night. That game that would not
is 3-2 or 2-3 against Toledo in the last 5 years, so yeah, it's possible.
That would not shock me at all. And as we get that's a Wednesday night game, so we get late November or no October, actually October 31st, and we start the weekday games, Buffalo at Toledo. I can see a situation where Eastern does go to Toledo and beats them, and that could be also a game where, there's going to be a lot on the line if that would be the case.
Mm-hmm.
That game could decide who goes to Detroit or not. It really could.
That's the de facto MAC West championship game, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. That one might be the biggest game. Just from looking at the preseason, I think it might be the biggest game in the conference this year.
I think so. I think that there's going to be that one is going to be one of the biggest games. And then, like I said, Ohio versus Miami, another big in-conference games. Those two games are going to be the conference divisional championships, and then obviously the MAC championship, of course. But yeah, Eastern Michigan has a lot of tools. Chris Creighton is a very, very smart coach. He's very patient with what he does. It would not shock me if EMU marched into Toledo and won that game. It also wouldn't shock me if EMU did that and then dropped 2 games they had no business dropping. That's
that wouldn't shock me either.
Just as it is with the MAC, that's teams win games they have no business winning and lose games they have no business losing.
That's the beauty of this conference.
Exactly. Who's your dark horse in the conference this year? Who's a team that you got an eye on? Obviously, we talked about the favorites, the Eastern Michigan, Toledo, Ohio, and Miami. Who's your dark horse?
I think if they can get it together, if they can, figure it out here in camp, it's Western Michigan.
Wow.
I really, really think if they were to pull it together, and they haven't determined who a quarterback is yet, I don't think. I think they really have a lot of. They have Anthony Sambucci back, which is huge. The offensive line, I believe everybody's returning. Jacob Gideon at center is a dude. He'll be a top threat. He'll be a 1 through 3 round pick in the draft when he comes out. But Trayson Bourget, is that how we pronounce his name?
I believe so. Yeah,
French. He was the only. You kind of look at the guys. He and Jack Slopek. They traded time last year, and so then they have Marlon Hobrowski on the roster. So I think if they can get the things together, because they have an offensive line to build around. Look at their offensive line here. You got a junior, you got a grad transfer, a junior, redshirt junior, redshirt junior. So a lot of guys who have a lot of playing time. And I think if they were able to get it situated, and Coach Lance Taylor gets his system in there, I think Western could make some noise. I would not be shocked. And it's not my bias because of my high school coach or our relationship with Coach Lester. I really do think that they can make some noise in the conference without a doubt.
You mentioned those other 2 quarterbacks. I would not be surprised to see Stone Hollenbach, get a crack at that starting job. Walked on at Alabama. Played a few things or a few passes at San Jose State. I would not be surprised to see him get an opportunity. But that is an interesting dark horse for me. And this is my bias towards Akron right now. Akron is my dark horse. Again, they lost so many close games last year. You look at what happened with Joe Moorhead in year 2 versus Tom Arth in year 2. Similar record, but you just feel like things are different with Akron. You don't feel like you're going further down a rabbit hole. You feel like, wait a minute, Akron football is exciting. Yeah, the record doesn't reflect how exciting Akron was last year. with those close games. I mean, you talk
Yeah.
about that Buffalo game last year. They lost that on a late, score. They
Yeah.
lost the Kent State game by 5. They lost the Central Michigan game by 7. I was at that one. I was at the Kent State one as well. They lost that Central Michigan game off of a fumble. They were
Humble.
driving
Yep.
to go kick a field goal to win that thing. So I think for me, I think my dark horse are the Akron Zips. And you watch out. You got Alex Adams, who can make catch after catch after catch. He is going to be DJ Irons' favorite target. You watch DJ Irons finally figure it out in the Moorhead system, understand how to use his feet when needed, but also not force plays. I think Akron's going to have a much better offensive line this year. They brought in a couple nice players off of the transfer portal to help supplant that. Defensively, they've got a couple defensive transfers who I think could do some really nice stuff. Akron is a team to watch in the MAC East, and I wouldn't be surprised if they pulled off an upset over the Bobcats or the Red Hawks to make things a little bit more interesting.
Yeah. And you kind of look I hate going back to last year, but you look at St. Francis of Pennsylvania winning that in overtime. That's tough. But they win that, then obviously they go to Sparty and get blown out. They go to Tennessee and get blown out. They play Liberty tough, and Liberty's not a slouch. Obviously going 2-10 last year, 1-4 at home, 1-6 away. I think this is that year. Moorhead going into his second year now. I think he'll have things going. I think DJ Irons is finally bought in, and I think Coach Moorhead also, coming from that Oregon style of offense, I think he understands how to use him now, because Oregon's always had a mobile quarterback while he was there at his time. So he has one now. It's just a matter of molding him into that system. And I think the second year in that system is going to be huge. It's going to be incredible for him.
Sure. All right, let's talk offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year. Who do you have on the defensive side of the ball? Who's winning the player of the year?
I got Coyle out of Ball State.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be my my homer pick, if you will. But I really like what he's done. He's kind of the leader of that defense. Coach New, being obviously a Ball State guy, he likes guys who've been in the program. He likes leaders. He's a big leaders guy. Every time we've talked to him, we talked about leaders and leadership. And I think that's where this comes into play for Ball State, because they lost a lot of guys and they need a lot of help. And they're going to get more help on their offense than they are defensively, I think, especially early on in the year. And so I think it's Coyle out of Ball State getting the defensive MVP, though.
The linebacker, right?
Linebacker, yep.
Clayton, yeah. No, I really like what he's done. I mean, he's had a great career there. You look at his numbers over the last several years. This is a kid who can ball. This is a kid who knows how to play. Last year, he had 49 solo tackles, 61 total assisted tackles, and then 110 total tackles. He had 7 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, a couple pass deflections, 2 forced fumbles. This is a kid who can fly around the ball. I've always been very impressed with him. And he just plays with such a high motor out of Ball State. And, they're going to need that this year. They're going to need him to really step up. For me, though, defensively, I've got Marcus Fuqua out of Buffalo. Again, this, you talk about guys who just come out and play. This is the safety out of Buffalo. I really, really, really like what he's done with his career there. In the last 2 years, he's really just turned it on. Last year, he had 64 total tackles, 5 pass breakups. He had 7 picks. And I think for me, that's what really kind of drew me to him. Was in his previous 3 years, he had 1 pick. Last year, he turned it on with 7. He really locked it down in the backfield. So I like him to be my defensive player of the year. I think that there's an opportunity for him. You talked about the linebacker from Buffalo. I think Marcus Fuqua at safety is going to really, really do some damage and make some noise this year.
Yeah, without a doubt. He was a guy I looked at as well, along with Sean Dolick out of Buffalo. I think that's one of the reasons why I had Buffalo a little higher on my list, is because of the defensive backs. The back half of that defense. They're going to be tough, and I think they're I think Coach Linguist is going to really lean on that defense to get them in position to win games.
Yeah, I agree. So. And then flipping over to the offensive side of the ball, the side that everybody loves to talk about, who are you picking to win Offensive Player of the Year?
Offensive player of the year is tough because there are a lot of contenders that are a lot of good contenders this year. But we talk about I talked about I would not be shocked if Eastern Michigan won this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if they were to win, I think that leans on to Samson Evans. I think he gets an opportunity to take home MAC player of the offensive player of the year, given what he's been able to do the past year. And he was really able to put Eastern Michigan and him on the map last year. Kind of fizzled out. I think he dealt some injuries towards the back half of last season. But I think with a good year and the year that we're expecting from Eastern, I took Samson Evans.
It's a quality pick, and I mean you can't go wrong with a one of the best running backs in the league, right? Marquez Cooper out at Ball State now. I think he's an obvious, potential choice. I really love the Samson Evans pick. I'm going back to I'm going to call him the comeback player of the year because that's what I truly believe, but also the future player of the year this year, and that's going to be Brett Gabbert. You look at what he's done in his whole career. Last year, he didn't get a chance to really get going, but he still had 4 touchdowns early to go last year. I mean, this is a kid who came out really firing, trying to compete, trying to win games. I really like what Brett Gabbert's going to bring to the table. He, in 2021, I mean, because you got to go back that far. 2021, he had over 2,600 yards, 26 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a gunslinger right there, 60% completion percentage. And then, going back even further, he's got great rushing stats too. I mean, this is a kid who knows how to play ball. He understands what it takes to win, what it takes to compete at the highest level. His freshman year, he went and got blown out by Ohio State and then won a MAC championship.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I really like Brett Gabbert.
Crazy he's been around that long.
2019.
Yeah, and then he went out against Kentucky last year, right? The game you were at.
He went out, against Kentucky. Well, he finished the Kentucky game.
Okay. But he didn't come back after that.
He didn't come back after that. He came back later in the year. Tried to come back later in the year. Didn't get to complete everything. But he did play in the Ohio game last year. He threw for 244 and 3 tutties against Ohio last year.
That's right.
So he did play in 4 games. He, against Kentucky, he was 20 of 28 for for 166.
Yeah.
Like he was looking really good.
It was. And this is a big year for him because, I mean, not only it's coming off injury for his last game in, last season in college, but he's got a really good quarterback behind him. If things were to, for some crazy reason, things were to go downhill, Coach Martin will make a change because, they have a really, really good backup quarterback in Avion Smith.
Yep. Nope. I agree. I mean, it's going to be a fun year. I love the picks. There's lots of talent on both sides of the ball in the conference, but I'm just ready for Friday night, man. It's going to be a good Friday.
Without a doubt. It's hard to believe it's already here. I've got high school ball I'm refereeing. That's starting this week, and we'll start last week. And it's here. And you may have saw it on our Twitters, though. Alex will be at Illinois week 1 for Illinois Toledo.
Mm-hmm.
I will be at week 3 heading to Lincoln, Nebraska for the Huskers and Huskies game. Just got that approval today, which is really exciting. That's going to be Nebraska's first home game of the year. Matt Rule's first home game at Nebraska. But also the reemergence of Rocky Lombardi, now that he's healthy, along with it'll be 70. They'll be seniors now, right? 70 some seniors now.
No, because that would have been 2 years ago. They were freshmen.
Well, academically, they'd be. How did that work?
Because
they were redshirt because of COVID. So
they all got that free year because of COVID. So yeah. So they'll be juniors and seniors.
Juniors, yeah, 70 of those guys. So, but that'll be a lot of fun. It's it was really cool getting that approval today, and I know it was cool for you to get yours earlier last week. So we've got a lot of cool things coming up here early, especially early on in the season.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a fun season. I'm really looking forward to it. Lots of driving this
Yeah,
fall.
I got 8 hours to Lincoln.
Lots of driving to Lincoln. It's a 5.5 from me here in Toledo, or about 5 from me here in Toledo to Champaign. And then the weekend after, I'm turning around. I'm going right to Buffalo for Buffalo versus Fordham. So it's
Nice.
so it's gonna
That'll
be
be a
it's gonna
good
be a good
game.
weekend.
That'll be a really good game.
That'll be a fun one, yeah. Because Fordham put up a bunch of points against Ohio last year,
Yeah.
so that'll be a lot of fun.
We were
to
driving
see.
back from the Eastern Michigan game when that was going on, I believe.
Yeah,
We listened to it on the radio. Yeah. Fordham had like a quarterback who was incredible.
yeah. I don't remember what his name was, but yeah,
I don't
he
know.
was slinging the ball around.
That was a 55, 53 or something like that. Something ridiculous.
Yeah, it was a high scoring game. It
Yeah.
was I want to say it was like 58, 55, something like it was ridiculous. But
Yeah.
it was a fun game. So that'll be fun to be out there at Buffalo the week after. And then I've got the schedule posted up. So if you're ever wondering, hey, where are they going to be at this weekend? Well, come find us. Mostly
Sure.
me, but I think AJ's going to try to come home for at least one game, and then
Yep.
maybe for the MAC championship as well. So
That's the
um,
plan.
so we'll make it happen. And then putting on the final touches for the app this week, and hopefully that'll be ready to go by this weekend. Got to wait on Apple to approve everything and give me the green light. But once they do, you guys will see it on our Twitter. We won't be quiet about it being available. So looking forward to getting that into everybody's hands as well.
Absolutely.
So, well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Really looking forward to this season. It's going to be a good one. Going to be bringing you some other coverage as well, not just football, but I'll be attending plenty of volleyball games, specifically at Eastern Michigan and Bowling Green. Try to get in at Toledo as well. But yeah, really looking forward to it. It's going to be a great year. Try to do some field hockey as well. We've actually got a upcoming episode here in a couple of weeks. We're going to be bringing on the field hockey coach from Miami, Ohio. Who today were slated by the coaches to win the MAC once again. So that's so Miami's the favorite once more. They won it last year, and they won the tournament last year as well. So the coaches have voted and said Miami's going to repeat as champions. So it'll be great to have coach on from Miami talking some field hockey, and yeah, really looking forward to the season.
Absolutely. It'll be a lot of fun.
So, well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Looking forward to bringing you coverage all fall long. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
See ya.